on to the Shared Services meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Evelyn, Edna, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and with that, Paul, maybe we should start with a status report from you as to, and yeah, I should say at the outset I know when I saw the communications when they came into, in this very prohibitive time frame we're operating under here, but when we sent out the request for information, I thought, even when that went out, oh boy, that's going to take a healthy dedication of time, because some towns are more automated than others. They can retrieve that information more quickly than others, and so obviously Evelyn is a crackerjack when it comes to that, because she was first across the line, although Jean Merlino and Luzerne and Bolton weren't too far behind you, but in any event, we sure would appreciate the towns continuing to. Hague is
we're on the way, Ron.
You know, is on the way. Check the information's in the mail, and so if the other towns can get that information, and that's important because that begins to tell us the volumes of the different commodities, and then we're able to, along with the county, begin to look at what we might be able to do in this regard. So just with that little bit of, and I know we're having a lot of meetings, but we're going to have, we could have one every week or one almost every week between now and June 1st, because we have to make absolutely sure that we meet that deadline. And there are municipalities that have been working on their own plan, and so we need to sit down with them to talk about whatever advantages or disadvantages there are and can we bring their plans into the county plan in their entirety, and does that serve them as well as if they submit it on their own. And so there's a lot of matters yet to resolve in a very short time frame, and so with that, Paul, I'll turn it over to you, and maybe you could give us an exact status report.
So, in terms of where we're at, the committee, as I understand it, always had two functions, essentially. One was to talk about the ways that services could be shared amongst the municipalities, and that's something that'll be an ongoing discussion that'll continue well beyond June 1st and into the many months. The primary mission, though, was to have an efficiency plan submitted to New York State so that we could get the benefit of the tax rebate checks for the municipalities in the county. That criteria, all it requires is that we have a plan. We don't even have to have the contracts in place. We don't have to have the project in place. And in fact, whatever plan we come up with, we don't have to have in place until January 1st, 2017. So we've actually got a year and a half to put it in place. What we do have to do right now, though, is to identify those either efficiencies or those sharing of services that we believe will show a savings. And in the county's efficiency plan, the benefit of everybody coming together with the county is that the county is able to meet that instantly with the sale of Westmount. We're way and above what we have to show for savings because of the amount we'll be saving upon the sale, and those savings are projected to continue and cover the years in question. The benefit to the towns of that, though, is that if we all join together in a county savings plan, or the efficiency planning, then everybody gets the benefit of adding up. You simply add up all the tax assessment values and add up all the savings, and as long as you meet that as a group, you're fine. So if one entity, for instance, didn't, if one entity fell, halfway, made it only halfway to the savings, they still get the benefit because they'd be part of the county savings plan. So what we're trying to do at this point is, in looking around and everything that's transpired, is that it looks like the only place that we can commonly join everybody in is on this purchasing program. So that is why we sent out this commodity survey, because and why we need that information so desperately is that when we get all that information back from you, we're going to turn it over to our purchasing agent, who in turn is going to work with the Onondaga County representative that was here and draw projections on what we believe can reasonably be saved. And as long as you can show some savings that will benefit the group as a whole, then that's the hook that brings everybody in underneath the county savings plan. So what we would hope then is when we submit to the state, we would put as the lead on our submission, it doesn't have to be this way, in fact the submission isn't that bad. We've gone online, I've gone online, Joanne's gone online to see exactly what we got to put in. But essentially what we would do is we'd show, I think, first, the purchasing program, show what the anticipated savings will be. The catch here is that we'll have to get the projections, as I mentioned, from the purchasing agent, and then all of you folks are going to have to sign off on this as towns. But once we have that, it doesn't matter what that number is as long as it's some sort of a savings. And we're starting off small, just joint bidding of commodities to make it very simple and easy. We would hope, by the way, that this purchasing program maybe could go much further like Onondaga did and maybe have greater benefits for us, but take the baby step and do what we have to do for the state. So we would show that. Then the next item, it could be any number of items, but the next item obviously would be the Westmount savings, which is huge. And then the next item underneath that we would show, for instance, would be Horicon and Bolton. Horicon and Bolton are sharing an assessor. We list that, Horicon and Bolton, and then the savings. And then City of Glens Falls, for instance, submitted an efficiency plan. I can't remember what it was now, but I know they're saving money through an efficiency that they developed in the city. It's not a shared thing, it's an efficiency plan they did of themselves, but we'll list that, show a savings. And so anything at all that we can list, whether it's 2 towns working together, 3 towns working together, an efficiency that you have, we list it there. For instance, the chairman mentioned that if the town of Queensbury wanted to come in, for instance, and I know they've been working on their own plan, but if they wanted to give us everything they had, we could just simply submit it and include it under our plan, but it would all be submitted and shown in the same manner as if you would put it in, we would put it in, John. And then that would be our list. And then you total up the numbers, and as long as, like I say, as long as the totals work, and as long as the plan makes sense, and that's why I say I always felt we needed the purchasing hook, because I don't think, in talking with the budget or NISAC representatives, we didn't think you could just simply list Westmount Sale and then list all the towns as enjoying the savings. They said, you know, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem to be consistent with what they're looking for. So that's why we've tried to devise this mechanism to get us in. And as I mentioned, the key here is, though, is we don't actually have to put it into place. We just have to set forth the plan, and then we have a year and a half to get it in place. So right now, I'm focused on just the purchasing plan, just the Westmount, the 2 towns items, the city items, and any other items that you have. And if you don't have any, that's fine. We'll work on the purchasing plan piece of it. And then we're ready to make our submission. So it's really not that involved, and I think we can get there. As the chairman mentioned, though, I realized there's a little bit of work doing that commodity thing. There's some stuff there. And then that other sheet I sent out is equally important. That's where you would set forth, like, the assessor arrangement and tell me what you're saving there, so we know.
Let me ask a question on that. Now, on the assessor, let's use that as an example. Horicon can calculate that the arrangement, let's say, saves them directly $20,000, $15,000, whatever the number is. Now in Bolton, where the real savings, there will be a savings also on the dollar in terms of the existing assessor. But if we had to fill that position, we might only be able to hire for that position full time. We might not be able to find somebody with those credentials that's willing to work for 20 hours a week and no benefits, as an example. So the benefit for us, for example, goes way beyond that. We could be looking at, say, a $60,000 to $80,000 individual to get somebody with the credentials to come in. Now, and then the question would be, at that point in time, well, what do you do with the extra hours? Do you move them over to planning and zoning? And then they would have to sign on to that. Now, so I guess a long question. So when you get to calculating the savings, is that type of situation, can you quantify that?
Now, what they're looking for is what were you spending and what are you gonna be spending in the future? And here again, as long as you're showing any kind of savings, that's fine. And even if only one town is showing savings, if it's two towns coming together but one town's showing it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with putting that in under the plan. So any of these ideas that we can list, and that's what we wanna do, is just list as many as we can under there. And, you know, the one thing I should state too, though, and maybe this is more for the purposes of Don and Tom in the back, but, you know, because you folks know this, we've already been doing a large number of shared services. The highways are one example, where the towns are taking snow plowing activities over for the county, and it works for both parties, because it makes sense so that the county doesn't have to go plow a road in some remote area out of its way, and the towns can typically do it at a lower cost. So we've already done, and that's not the only one, we've done a number of things that are you know, shared services. But where we are now, though, is we can't count those from the past. We have to have new ones effective January 1st, 2012 and after. So that's where we have to identify them. So we already have a number of them going on, but unfortunately we can't claim those. But I really am convinced that we can do this, and that as long as we can get the purchasing piece in order, and I know it's a little bit of work for your towns, but if we can do that, I think we're there. And then what I see happening after that is then the committee would start working on implementation phase, talking about those aspects, and here again, we've got plenty of time to do that. Other shared services ideas. One of the things that's come up previously is the animal one, which I did want to report back to you on. I don't see that one working out from the surveys that are coming in. Everybody's all over the place on this one. So I don't think we should spend any time on it now. I'm not saying it won't be something, here again, you can look at in the future, and maybe that'll be one, for instance, that maybe some people will join in on and save money in certain ways and other people won't. That'll be fine, and we can do that in the future, but it's not, I don't think we can gather the information we need and put a plan together fast enough to show savings now in time for the June 1st deadline, which is why I wanted to keep this as simple as we could and just focus in on, you know, just those areas that we can, I think, get there.
And that might be, my impression on that is that could turn into a real, what ends up being a cost avoidance, which really can't be quantified under this program, but really helps a number of municipalities avoid larger costs on down the road, and will allow them to do the reporting to the Department of Health that need to take place in a timely fashion on confined animals and that kind of thing. And different towns are at different places. Some have animal control officers that are doing a pretty good job, actually, and then bring in Mr. Fitzgerald when it gets to a certain level. It gets to a certain level of investigation, or a certain level of seriousness, as opposed to the more rudimentary kind of the dog's barking, or there's a dead animal in the road or whatever. So, but I think you're right. I think those types of things, I think, come after June 1st, because I think that you may have some municipalities, I think, for example, Lake George is very interested in contracting perhaps fully for services, whereas another municipality might be more interested in at this moment in time on some of those services, but maybe not all of those services. So that's going to take a little more time to work that through and get everybody comfortable. But the commodities we can do on a more unified basis and meet the June 1 deadline. You have meetings coming up with the city of Glens Falls?
I've actually been I spoke with Mike Mender yesterday. There was some question as to whether the city would or would not participate in the commodities program, and I stressed to Mike the importance of it. Because one of the ways we're going to get savings is if we could bring in the larger municipalities to join us on that purchasing program, because then it's not only the small towns that'll save, but it'll be the county and the larger municipalities will save. The larger the quantity that we can get, that we're bidding out at once, and to a single vendor, the better pricing you're going to get. At least that's what Onondaga has said that their experience has shown. Now, it doesn't always necessarily work on every single commodity, and in fact, there may be some interesting twists that we do. For instance, as Onondaga was explaining, that maybe Warren County doesn't bid out every single item, but bids out the items where it's going to show a true savings, and maybe we piggyback on, say, the town of Queensbury, for instance, or the city of Glens Falls, because if they add to their commodities, maybe they can get a better price. So there's a number of different strategies we can use, but the first, like I say, the basic step we just need to do is how much are we purchasing, and let our purchasing agent figure out what that savings will be, and then that's all we have to do for the state for right now.
And I think those municipalities need to, we need to, if they don't know already, they need to know that those other things that are in the plan that they're planning to do, they can continue to do as part of the county plan.
Absolutely.
And you know, we need to somehow assure them of that, so that, they know that, in addition to whatever advantage the commodity purchase says, whatever other elements they have in their plan, just like we moved forward, right, apart from the county, but we're in the plan. They need to be assured that that's going to happen. And, that coming under the umbrella somehow is not going to limit or inhibit their ability to be able to do that.
No, here again, I think the only purpose of joining together and getting in under the efficiency plan is just to meet that criteria, that you show that, and then you have an obligation to, in good faith, work from there to implement it. But like, for instance, when the town of Horicon and the town of Bolton, the county's not, although we're listening to the county plan, the county's not gonna be involved in that. It'll be the town of Horicon and the town of Bolton that work that out. Same thing with the city of Glens Falls, their efficiency plan. There's nothing for us as a county to do, but we're gonna list it in the efficiency plan because it shows the savings. And then by being part of that group, the town of Bolton, town of Horicon automatically enjoy the benefit of having met the obligation to assure that your residents are gonna get their rebate checks. So, but other than that, I think the biggest thing, Mr. Chairman, at this point is we really just need now to get the data into us, so, and, you know, keep in mind, we need time to work it. So, and I know it is a lot to ask for, but if there's any chance at all that we can get this in, say, sometime during the course of next week, that would be fantastic.
And, you know, I'm hoping that, for example, I think you have some municipalities that are considering moving to Clear Lane, for example, as opposed to rock salt. And if we can purchase that in a high enough volume, perhaps we can bring the price down and make it more attractive to those communities to make that transition.
Right.
Because it is more expensive. It's supposed to reduce the amount that you use, but it's a worrisome for some municipalities to, when they look at the unit price differential, you know, whereas if we could get into a higher volume situation, which might actually include the county, on county roads, particularly county roads that are next to water bodies, we could be purchasing that at a higher volume and hopefully get a better price. Would be the kind of thing that I think long term we might be able to achieve. And then I think also in this process, you know, you may have some town boards and supervisors out there that are thinking about their assessment situation, or they have somebody that's going to be retiring, and you know, and what are they going to do at that point in time? They just going to fill the position, or so I think that what the process is going to achieve over time is, if we continue, is that the decision makers in the municipalities may have more options to think about other things. You know, do I want to continue to handle my assessment situation this way? You know, I've got somebody retiring. You know, what do we? You know, might be code enforcement. Could be code enforcement as well. You know, I'm handling codes this way. In 6 months, I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle the code situation. At least they can bring it to the Shared Services Committee, and when we can establish some type of process whereby perhaps some other options could be put out there for Bolton or whatever town that, you know, it could link up different municipalities and reduce the cost, or improve the efficiency of the operation. Because some of these positions, as you know, they require, to do them correctly, require years of experience. They require different levels of licensing, including Edna sewer and water plant operators. And I know that's a big one going forward, because I think that we have some, especially the rural towns, we have some challenges in that regard. But I would see it, and I know the chairman, you know, assessors, code enforcement people, sewer and water plant operators, particularly when you get in a jam. It would be nice to have some cross-training, or at least the people from Bolton, if they went to Hague, or Hague if they came to Bolton, it's not their first time through the door. They understand how the plant operates, they understand, because these are important missions that we have in the delivery of these services. And the same thing with, maybe even with code enforcement. Somebody gets hurt, something happens, a town gets in a jam, where we can extend certain services with qualified people to, even if it's only on a stopgap kind of basis. Because I know it consumes a lot of time, at least for me, in this whole personnel world, particularly when it's not just, let's say, a straightforward laborer. There are complications in terms of the person and whatever. And so that's where I'm hoping we can go. I know that's what the chairman was thinking in terms of, after we get past the June 1st deadline, maybe we can start to delve into some of these other matters that committee members or other supervisors are interested in. Matt brought up advertising for roads. Can we do that in a unified fashion? I've had other supervisors mention to me, well, what about lab testing? A lot of us need lab testing for different purposes. Is there, is that a function that the city could perform on our behalf? What about sludge disposal, right? That kind of thing. And so that's pretty much it. So that pretty much concludes the meeting, unless there's anything else that the committee members or anyone else is interested in putting out on the table. If not, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Matt? Frank? We're adjourned.